Hey, welcome to Breaking the News Plus on this Wednesday night. I'm excited to have a conversation with my guest tonight, Nekima Levy Armstrong. I've known Nekima, civil rights attorney in our area for over a decade, I think, as I was thinking about it now. And I'm talking to her today because she was one of a small group of black women who stood up 6 months ago and said to Target, "We're out." So Nekima joins us live on Breaking the News Plus, and I thank you, Nekima, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. You know you're one of my favorite people.
Oh, okay. My day is made. So Nekima, as I noted, I've known you a long time, over a decade, and you have always stood at the front of something that you believe in, even and almost always when it's unpopular, because you believe it's the right thing to do, and I have a lot of respect for you for that. And 6 months ago, you did it again. You stood with some black women in front of Target's headquarters and said, hey, you're rolling back DEI. 5 years ago, when George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis, you said you were going to do all these things. You either didn't do them, fell short of doing them, and now you're rolling back DEI as a whole and said, we're not going to shop there anymore. Was it scary to make that kind of stand against one of the biggest companies and most popular companies in America?
I would say more than anything, it was truly disappointing. I was someone who shopped at Target regularly. My youngest child is 7 years old. She loved Target, and I say loved as in past tense, because she is now aware of our concerns regarding Target. I think the biggest disappointment was their capitulation to the Trump administration. They really had an opportunity to stand firm as a beloved progressive company that seemed to represent the best that Minnesota had to offer. But instead, they rapidly showed the other side of their belief system, which is one that has unfortunately aligned itself with the Trump administration. And for those of us in the public eye, we know that our heads have had to be on a swivel since Donald Trump took his second term or started his second term, and all of the chaos and trauma that has happened as a result of his executive orders, attacks on immigrant communities, attacks on LGBTQIA rights, attacks on Black history, and on and on. So for Target to align itself with the Trump administration by rolling back diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also even donating $1 million towards the Trump and Vance inauguration committee is just shocking. It's absurd, and I would call it disgusting as well. So I think that as a Black woman, as a Black mom, as a Black consumer, it was an important decision to make, to take that stance. And I was glad that, of course, I was joined by other Black women, Black men, white allies, and folks in our community who decided enough was enough, and joined me in that nationwide call for a boycott against Target Corporation.
Well, that was 6 months ago to the day. Almost 6 months ago. 6 months ago yesterday, excuse me. It's the 2nd of July. I thought it was the 1st. You did it back in February. So as we saw over the last 6 months, Target has experienced difficulties in turning a profit. Their sales are down. They're having all sorts of problems. Part of it could be tariffs. Part of it could be this, that, or the other thing. But there is a part of it that seems to not want to be talked about, and is that DEI part of it, rolling back DEI and these boycotts, the one in which you and others started here in Minneapolis. And you wrote in the Star Tribune today some important things that I wanted to ask you about. The Target didn't ask for a meeting with you to say, how can we do better, right?
Right.
They
Target decided. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll let you finish this because you're the expert. But Target decided to speak to Black pastors out of state and talk about this issue. That felt bad to you. Can you explain why?
I don't know why Target made the decision to bypass local organizers, particularly Black women who are calling for this national boycott of Target. And instead of reaching out to those of us here on the front lines, those who fought for justice for George Floyd, because that is a part of this. After George Floyd was murdered by the Minneapolis Police Department, Target made a pledge focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, focused on $2 billion that they were $2.1 billion that they were going to pledge to improve the Black customer shopping experience, also get more Black brands on the shelves, improve their diversity and equity and inclusion process with regard to promotions and hiring within the company, as well as their supplier diversity network. And so we thought that Target was a leader during that time. You know what the environment was like here after George Floyd was killed, how tense everything was, just the amount of trauma. And Target, being a hometown store, seemed to understand the trauma and the impacts of what was happening after George Floyd was killed. And so they actually stood up as a national leader amongst companies to make that $2.1 billion pledge, as well as those other promises. And other companies, of course, followed suit. Mm-hmm. And we thought that it was the beginning of a long-awaited racial reckoning during that time. But instead, Target decided to go in the other direction and send a message that it's okay to not follow through on those promises, focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they added, I would say, another layer into their troubles by deciding to engage in misogyny and patriarchy, from my perspective, by meeting with the Reverend Al Sharpton, who literally has nothing to do with the Target boycott. There have also been rumors that they may have met with Jamal Bryant, who was inspired by our Target boycott, has tried to co-opt it. And they gave money to the National Baptist Convention to the tune of $300,000. So these are all Black male ministers that Target has been in contact with, has taken photos with, has, written a check, at least one that we know of, instead of addressing the issues with the women here on the ground in the Twin Cities who actually launched the nationwide Target boycott. And as you know, it has led to so many other economic justice movements, like the Tesla takedown, the 40-day Target fast, the Latino freeze, and then the rolling boycotts by the People's Union USA. So we really set the stage for teaching people how to channel their rage and their frustration into tangible action to send a message that we're not going to tolerate the rolling back of our rights, the rolling back of DEI, and the unfortunate actions of the Trump administration.
Nekima, there is a history too, a part of this, right? In terms of Black women being overlooked. There was a blockbuster movie called Hidden Figures, when a lot of us as white folks start to learn the actual history. And so this was just another incident, in your opinion, of that, like Black women just like leapfrog over, you didn't do anything, we're going to go to the men to see what's up.
Absolutely. And I want to give credit and a shout out to Shaletta Brundage, who wrote a phenomenal op-ed that appeared in the Star Tribune, where she talked about the erasure of Black women. It's something she and I have talked about quite often since the start of the Target boycott. And we've even, talked about it on her show as well, how Black women are continually erased. And for those who may not know, even if you go back to the civil rights movement, the Black women were the ones who did a lot of the major organizing around that movement, helped lift up the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And even during the 1963 March on Washington, the male organizers actually sent the Black women organizers to march down a different street. So when you look at the photos from the March on Washington, you see one where Dr. King and some of the other male leaders are marching arm in arm, but you don't see the women. And that's because they were sent down a different street so that they wouldn't be photographed, so that they wouldn't be centered. And unfortunately, their labor wound up being erased. Many of us don't know their names, we don't know their stories, and we don't know their contributions. And this is not just something that is happening in a vacuum. It is systemic, and it is very harmful. I mean, think about our daughters when they are looking at history books and learning about who led what movements, including the civil rights movement and beyond. They don't see Black women at the forefront, even though the Black women were the ones who started the movement, beginning with Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery on December 1st of 1955, and then everything else that happened that we know of as the civil rights movement, and understanding that Black women's leadership undergirded that movement. So it is a problem, and Target, unfortunately, is repeating those familiar patterns by cherry picking Black male leaders who literally have nothing to do with the boycott to amplify and support, rather than deal with the core issues that we are bringing to the forefront about their behavior.
Well, then my last question for you, Nekima, is this. With that history in mind, 1955 to what, 2025, we're talking about 70 years at least, and then probably more egregious before then. Why do you continue to stand in the front and say, I stand here for change? Why bother?
You know, some days that is a question, right? That comes to mind because we're up against so many forces that want to silence us, that want to erase us and undermine our intellectual capabilities, our organizing abilities, etc. But I do it for the women whose shoulders I stand on. I think about women like Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer. I mean, the list goes on and on of Black women who stood in the face of injustice. They did not cower, they did not shrink, they stood courageously, and they fought for our rights so that we could use our voices in this day and age. And I also fight for future generations, right? Our daughters, our little girls who are watching us, who are being told that, you know, they need to sit down and they need to be quiet, or that their contributions don't matter. We know that that is a complete fallacy. They need to understand that as women, we have been conditioned to think that our voices don't matter, but literally we carry the world on our shoulders. Whole communities, whole movements are because of the power of women taking a stand and refusing to back down. I also want to lift up and honor Monique Cullors Doty and Jaylani Hussein, who are both the co-leaders of the Target boycott, because they have courageously fought for justice for so many years, and they are experiencing the erasure that I spoke about in my article as well. So we have to keep speaking, we have to keep fighting, we have to refuse to back down, and it is our time. It's our time as women. That's what I firmly believe, and I'm gonna keep showing up, keep standing up, and keep fighting and using my voice just as you do every day. And we're so grateful for your willingness to do that.
Well, Nekima, it has been a pleasure. It has been too long. I want to talk to you soon, but thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. That's all for Breaking the News Plus tonight. I'm Janice Shortle.